you look back at all the games you've played in your life, a lot of them probably have that one level that you remember too well. That one level that sticks out like a sore thumb from the rest of the game, that might be your favorite part of the game, or the one you wish you could forget. Gimmick levels, a staple in many video games and a term that I made up. And arguably some of the most memorable moments in games come from these gimmick levels. But first, let's take a step back and talk about what a gimmick level really is and how they started. The best way to describe a gimmick level is a section in a game that switches up the regular formula and pace of the gameplay. It's difficult to pinpoint where this idea of gimmick levels actually began, but the earliest I could think of is probably the water levels in the original Super Mario games. The Mario games use the water levels to switch up the normal gameplay of jumping into swimming. You can swim upward and fall slowly down, and it changes up the entire regular platforming system in the game. I think you could actually contribute this entire idea of gimmick levels to Mario games because it's basically every Mario level at this point. But the water level is something that is a through line in many Nintendo games and something I would consider the grandfather of these gimmick levels. Alright, now that we have set a base, let's talk about some of these gimmick levels. I also want to rate these levels on a gimmick meter from 1 to 10. A 1 being, this mission is so bad, I literally do not want to replay this game. And 10 being, this level is so good that it is the best part of this game. So, let's get into it.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to start with a stinker here. And if we're going to talk about gimmick levels, we have to talk about the king of this idea, Super Mario Galaxy. Well, I think you can consider a lot of the levels in this game gimmick levels. The one that I want to focus on is the manta ray racing. Dude, my Wii controller was at the tipping point playing this level when I was young. I think I chucked it at the wall like 3 different times.
In the air, and when oh, jeez. And there goes the tennis racket.
This level makes you use the shitty Wii motion controls, and you hold it like this, and you turn it left and right to turn the manta ray. And the track is floating, and it's water, so the physics are weird, and there's no borders on the track. It is annoying. It's annoying. But with the Switch version and the improved motion controls, it becomes a bit more tolerable. However, every time I replay this game, which is a lot, this is the level I'm least looking forward to replaying. I don't know, even though it's better with the improved motion controls, it still feels janky, which is crazy to me because some of the water levels in this game are probably the best ever made. So, on the gimmick meter for this one, we're giving it a 6 out of 10. It's only a little roadblock in a masterpiece of a game. And you know, speaking of annoying gimmick levels, let's move on to a much worse one. Rockstar games are so big and are filled with gimmick levels. They love doing little shit like this for side missions. But one that sticks out to me particularly, the mission where you scout out the construction site as Trevor, oh my god. Honestly, this whole portion should have been a cutscene, and I'm also gonna put it in the category of bad controls along with this Mario Galaxy level I was talking about. It does not feel good moving around the crane or the forklift. It's slow, it's clunky, and it's unnecessary. Why is it in the game? Why? This mission is only like 20 minutes, but it feels like 3 hours. You gotta drive over to the apartment, you gotta pick up the guys from the apartment, you gotta drive all the way over to the construction site, you gotta use the forklift, climb all the way up onto the crane, use the crane, drive back to the apartment. It is just annoying. And I love this game, don't get me wrong, but whenever I think about it, that little bug in the back of my brain is thinking about this level. This one is getting like a 3 out of 10 because I actively dread this mission when I think about replaying this game. Okay, now let's get on to a little bit of a palate cleanser. Titanfall 2 is probably one of my favorite FPS games I've ever played, and unlike a lot of FPSs, it actually has a great campaign. There's one section in the game where you get a wrist device that lets you switch between the past and the present. This lets the game do some really creative storytelling as well as some fun and creative platforming and puzzles while you switch in between the past and the present. I don't know if this sort of time travel swap thing has existed in games before this, but I think it's really creative, and is easily one of the most memorable sections of this campaign that is jam-packed with really cool moments. This gimmick is going to get a solid 8 out of 10 on the gimmick meter. I talk about this damn game so much on this channel, but here we go again. Breath of the Wild is a game that lets you get so creative with your combat and your traversal that somehow one of the most fun parts of this game is when they take it all away from you. Eventide Island is a small island in the corner of the map in this game, and any sane person's first thought in a game like this is, how do I get over there? And the game knows you're thinking this too, and it decides to pull a little bit of a prank on you. When you get there, it removes every single thing you have in your inventory. Uh-oh. You find out that you need to get these orbs that are scattered across the island into their respective spots. This part is so cool because it kind of feels like a mini game inside of this game. You got to recollect a bunch of resources, go to the different areas, and get creative with killing enemies because you have dog shit weapons. It's just such a memorable moment in this game because of the fact that it's so unexpected. In Breath of the Wild, 99% of the time, your exploration is rewarded with rewards. Most of this game is you see an area, you go, I want to go there, and you go there and you get something out of it, whether it's a shrine or a weapon or a boss or a new area. This is the only time in this game we're going to explore something just fucking robs you. And they stripped this boy down to his undies, man. 9 out of 10 on the Gimmick meter. Probably 100% of people watching this right now know exactly where this is going, but the MJ missions are so boring. And don't get it twisted, I don't want to see any shit in the comments about DEI or forcing women into this game. That's not it at all. It's just boring. It's just another one of those situations like GTA where I feel like this could have been a cutscene. 4 out of 10. Now this time, I don't think the MJ missions are that bad. They aren't stellar by any means, but they gave her a gun this time, which is pretty badass. It's kind of like dumbed down or watered down Last of Us gameplay, which is a little more exciting than whatever the hell was going on in the first game. However, the levels I want to talk about in this game are the ones where you have to follow Harry Osborn around, or bike with him, or have those flashback moments with him, or follow him around that science lab. I cannot stand these. I played this game, I 100%ed it, and then I replayed it a couple months later, and I stopped. I got to the carnival level, and I stopped playing. It feels like they needed this game to be 30 hours, like the Sony higher-ups were telling them it needs to be 30 hours, and so they just padded out everything they could. And it's really, really frustrating, especially because this game has really high highs, too. It's just like, why? So yeah, I don't know. I hope Insomniac learns from this for Wolverine and the Spider-Man 3 when that comes out. 2 out of 10 on the Gimmick meter. This game is so good and looks so good and has a pretty solid story, but why in the world is the section with Atreus so long? I get the purpose of moments like this in narrative-driven games. It's almost like an episode of a show where you follow a side character to get into their psyche and like get some insight into them as a person. But man, this idea does not translate well into video games a lot of the time. The main problem I have with this section is it's just the normal combat of the main game, but worse. I guess it's to show that Atreus is weaker than Kratos, but like, you can convey that in a cutscene, guys. Please, guys, cutscenes. They're okay. Ragnarok is filled with a lot of sort of lackluster platforming, and they were just like, yeah, let's make this entire Atreus level that. And while usually in the main game when you're playing Kratos, it's not that big of a deal because it's pretty short or there's a puzzle or something, this level is just like 70% yapping and weak platforming. The only redeeming part of this section in this game is the boss fight at the end, but it's buried under 2 hours of like the least engaging gameplay. Now, the point I made about TV earlier, I don't think it's impossible for this to work in a game. Last of Us has a section where you play as Ellie, but it's 1, much shorter, and 2 is a lot more engaging because there's a lot more stakes in the story. You are basically just weaker Joel in this section, but it's scary because you're a kid and you're not supposed to be here. The stakes are high. It's interesting and engaging because of what is going on in the story, and that's not the case with this Atreus mission. This one gets like a 4 out of 10 on the Gimmick meter because the boss is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
This game honestly has a lot of options for gimmick levels, as like that's most of the game since you can transform into the creatures. But the one that sticks out to me the most is when you get to be Bowser at the end of the game. What? You get to be Bowser? If you told me when I was 10 that there was a Mario game that you could play Bowser in, I would flip my shit. It is such a fun ending set piece to this game. It ties it all perfectly together. The mechanic you've been using this entire game of throwing your hat onto the creatures and then you can turn into them, being used on the main villain of the game is... that's some peak Mario. I think my only complaint about this section is that you kind of just smash a bunch of walls and that's it. But this seems to me like it was the precursor for Bonanza. So thank you, Super Mario Odyssey. Either way, 8 out of 10 on the Gimmick meter. First off, what a game this is, man. The parry system in this game is super smooth and fun. The art direction is sick. The bosses and big moments in this game are super creative. It's just a great game, and you should check it out if you haven't, if you like a good challenge. Now, there's 2 moments in this game that I would consider a gimmick level, and one is really annoying, and the other is my favorite moment in the game. The first one happens when you start this boss fight about halfway into the game, and you just get fried immediately. He then captures you, and once you escape, you have very minimal health, you can't dash anymore, you can't parry. So right in the middle of this fast-paced, smooth game, you have one of the slowest stealth missions imaginable. This shit is just a slog, especially if you're a dumbass like me and you died like 7 times. The enemies in this section walk back and forth on the platforms, except they stop for like 3 whole seconds before turning around and walking back. If you get caught, auto death, auto restart of this section. Awful. I hate it. 3 out of 10 on the Gimmick meter. However, not much longer into this game is one of the most incredible and memorable sections. You go into the memory of this former scientist woman, and it seems like she's having some nice dream about chilling in the hot springs. But as you progress through this area, you realize it's a ruse. As you complete this really cool platforming section where the platforms are changed based on what color the screen is, this virtual reality dream world place begins to glitch and you start seeing the dark side. You slowly learn that a freak accident during the scientist lady's life killed a bunch of her students. This platforming gimmick where it changes based on the color of the screen is only present in this area, and it's very Mario-esque. I wonder why I like it. And at the end of this mission, you finally get to fight the scientist lady in this crazy dream version of herself where she clones herself progressively during each stage of the boss fight. I was in bed at like 1 in the morning playing this section and I was just in awe. 10 out of 10 gimmick level, easily the best part of this game and my favorite on this list. The final gimmick I wanted to talk about is in Silksong. Easily my game of the year, probably the best game to come out this decade so far. After finishing Act 1 of this game, going back to any area in Act 1, there will be these prison guard bugs roaming around. Because since you were sighted in these areas, they're scouting you. Because at the beginning of the game, you escaped the grasp of the Citadel, which first of all is just such a cool touch to add to this game. But if the prison guards catch you, you are transported to the Slab, an area at this point you most likely haven't been to. You also wake up with no sword and no clothes. Sound a little familiar? You then have to explore and look for keys for this place to escape. Now this is super similar to the moment in 9 Souls, except in this game you don't lose all your movement ability, and it's also not a stealth mission, which are like my 2 biggest complaints about this moment in 9 Souls. I also like how in this section in Silksong, the little mini enemy gauntlet you have to fight has these big spike things that when you press the button, they come and move around the room, killing some of the enemies. It's just such a cool, creative way to alleviate the difficulty because you don't have a weapon. And obviously this moment when Hornet gets her shit back is like a top 3 moment in this game. It's so sick. My second playthrough, I realized you could avoid these prison guys and just kill them, but I just let it take me, dude, because this is just such a cool moment in the game that I wanted to replay. Also, the concept of getting taken to a whole new area against your will is not a new one, and it's common in a lot of Souls games and Metroidvania games, but the way it's presented in this game just elevates it above most for me. For example, in Elden Ring, when you run into this trap chest, yes, it takes you to a new area, and it's scary and confusing and, you know, all the things they want you to feel, but it's gone the second you die. Once you die, you're just taken back to the last checkpoint you were at, and it feels like a little fever dream that you were even in a different area, rather than a big moment like getting transported all the way to the Slab in this game. Anyway, this section gets a 9 out of 10 on the gimmick meter for me. So that's all I have for these gimmick levels. I think gimmick levels can either be a very powerful storytelling tool, but they can also be a big hindrance on a game if they're not implemented correctly. I would say for a gimmick level to work, it needs to elevate your experience rather than just make it different. Obviously, there are plenty of these in existence, so if you have any cool ones, leave them down in the comments. If you disagree with me on any of these, let me know. And thank you for watching.